This is my review of NWA Worldwide Wrestling for January 12th, 1985. Worldwide Wrestling opens up first with a clip from the January 6th, 85 in Greensboro, their major show that they promoted from the previous January 5th episode of Worldwide Wrestling. They had a big cage match, Ivan Koloff versus Don Cornotto, lights out cage match, and one thing I read about in the match that in conclusion, Ricky Steamboat had to come in and help Don Cornotto. He got overrun by the Russians, and Ricky Steamboat came out and pried the cage open. If like he lifted the cage off its hinges to open up and get himself inside the cage and help Don Cornotto. So that's how the opening of the episode started. Now the episode starts in a jobber tag team match. Magnum TA and Raging Bull Manny Fernandez versus Joel Deaton and Jeff Sword. Now for 1985, we bring in the announcing team of Tony Schiavone and David Crockett. Okay, David Crockett. I am a big fan of David Crockett. Many fans are not. I've heard are not a fan of David Crockett. I liked him how he was really overzealous on his announcing. They call it color commentating. One thing he was really overzealous. Yes, he was a big the face and fan favorite. He pushed the favorites. He pushed the faces. He could care less about the bad guys, the heels. He's like, in a sense, he was playing like in a sense a wrestler himself, that he would put down anything negative about the bad guys, but when it comes to the faces, the good guys, he would really put them over anything they did. Hard right hand to the head. Any move they did, punch, kicks, drop kicks, anything they did in the ring, he would overdo it, overreact on it. I found that cool about David Crockett. I was a big fan of David Crockett. One thing they kept pushing about in this how good of a tag team match that it was Magnum TA and Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, how well a good tag team they were. The one strange thing that really caught me out, it was strange that they were calling Magnum TA that he has been around for a couple of weeks. He was on last week's show, and like he was new to Worldwide Wrestling. And the way they said it, it sounded like the Worldwide Wrestling was a sole promotion, a company on its own. It's just a syndicated B show. But it was my favorite show, and I had not had cable yet till 1986. I never saw TBS. Worldwide Wrestling was the TV wrestling that was the only thing I was able to see yet. And it was strange the way they said it about Magnum. He's making himself a name here in Worldwide Wrestling. First they said it like it was a sole company. Then they repeated it like it was the TV episode. And then during the match, they were making an announcement that the NWA is recognizing the World Six-Man Tag Team Trophy as a championship, and the Russians, Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Crusher Khrushchev, are the proclaimed World Six-Man Tag Team Champions, and with that trophy. That is one of the things that Worldwide Wrestling was so notable for. It was so memorable and notable for is when they met, either they would show it or announce it. Title changes, the big shows, any huge thing. As much as when I began seeing the TBS episodes, Worldwide Wrestling showed a lot more. They would show a clip from the previous of a major show, Greensboro, Charlotte, any major show, major match, title change, or a major cage match, whatever. Worldwide Wrestling would either open the show up like that, or they're going to look back and see this an epic match, epic title change, epic situation, and Worldwide Wrestling would talk about where TBS not really. Now, if Worldwide Wrestling would miss it, TBS would have shown that. The TBS show at 6:05 would have shown something that World Wrestling did not show. That's an interesting comparison between the two shows. But this match is a jobber match between Magnum TA, Raging Bull Manny Fernandez. Interesting combination. And against jobbers Joel Deaton and Jeff Sword, and good tag team in between the two, Magnum and Manny Fernandez, and they performed a good double drop kick on the jobbers. Then eventually Magnum does the belly to belly suplex, and they get the pin over the jobbers. Okay, the next promo interview is David Crockett interviewing Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes, and they talk about where Tully Blanchard is searching for the perfect tan woman, and Dusty says, I'll show you a perfect tan." He clenches his fists, says, "I'll show you a perfect tan, like all 10 fingers clenched like in fists." That's funny. Now what they do, then they go to a video, and this was a very interesting video that was memorable. After Tully first announced on the previous episode he's looking for a perfect 10, and they actually put again the address out of women to send portfolio photos and to actually think they can hang out with him. It was an interesting search. Whether apparently this was real. James J. Dillon or Tully Blanchard, one of them said that this was actually a real thing they did. That women actually sent in portfolios, photos, and requests to be part of this. And now the video shows Tully Blanchard in it seems like a white tuxedo and bow tie. I'm not sure if it's truly white. It might be off-white or a different color, but from the video it seems white. And then it shows a woman in blonde and in a fancy kind of green, shimmering. The top is a shimmering glimmer dress with a green bottom, green dress. And Tully is at times Tully and her he's like away from each other at a table, or she's upstairs, he's downstairs, and she's smiling at him, but he turns away like he's bored or not interested, and she's like disappointed at this. And at the time they're at a table, Tully's drinking a small shot glass of wine. She's picking up a glass, and either of them, then the woman is eating a strawberry, and then Tully's eating a strawberry. It's at a dinner table, and he's turning away from her constantly, not interested and bored, even laughs at this. So it's like he's still searching, and whomever this. Now the one thing I was when I was watched this video of the woman, this blonde, a couple times from different angles, and the way the scenes were where she's upstairs, Tully's downstairs, the table, the dinner table. The different angles and scenes they're doing, it almost seems like there's multiple women in this. I think it was several different women. No, if you didn't pay attention, you think it's several different women. It's the same woman, same blonde, green dress, shimmering type of top. It's the same woman, but different angles and scenes of the video. You think it's actually more. It's multiple women. No, it's only one. It's the one blonde. Now the next image was kind of strange. Why they had it added in was Ric Flair getting out of a limousine, and he was wearing a trench coat with a hat. I remember him wearing this during the Starrcade '84 promotion, the $1 Million Challenge match with Dusty Rhodes. That's kind of strange. This image of him giving out limo wearing a trench coat, it lasted for 1 or 2, 3 seconds, and it's why it was thrown in like that. But okay, next is the jobber match. Steve Casey against Ben Alexander, and I had to look up who the jobber was. Talent enhancement Ben Alexander, but the name Steve Casey. Now I thought I had heard this name before, but apparently I'm trying to research his name. There have been there's 2 to 3 or 4 wrestlers that went by that name, and this guy's a young guy, so I cannot really find research on particularly. There's been a couple different ones, so trying to figure out. They called him a European sensation, and they said David Crockett, Tony Giovanni said that he came out of Europe. That Ric Flair, they call Ric Flair discovered him in a sense that this guy's tough. He needs to work. Try out here over in Jim Crockett Promotions. Now also, they kept pushing that the way about Worldwide Wrestling, the television show. Again, I thought they were pushing that. They're pushing worldwide. You got to make make a name for yourself, and you can't lose a match on Worldwide Wrestling. At first, I thought they were talking about the way if Worldwide Wrestling to them was a company. No, it's actually Jim Crockett Promotions had 4 television shows going on, and I'm not sure if it was going on 85 and 86, but they had now the TBS show. If that was officially did not start till April 6, 1985, that's my question. If Worldwide Wrestling was running as a syndicated B show, then what is the A show? Now other than Worldwide Wrestling, the other two shows were Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling and NWA Pro Wrestling. They each had a commentating team. And the way they talked about Steve Casey, Steve Casey was doing fairly good, and is they're treating him like an amateur or rookie. I don't know how long this guy's been working wrestling. Say he's from Europe apparently. I could not confirm because apparently there's several wrestlers that went by that name, at least 2 to 3 or 4 of them. And during the match, coming almost to the end, I was wondering, when is this match ending? And that Steve Casey went to jump to into the corner in the second rope, and it looks like he tripped. Whoa! That caught me by surprise. What? And it's like, is he making a mistake or was that deliberate? I'm not sure. Then he grabs the opponent, Ben Alexander, into an airplane spin and does a backward drop. So he pins Ben Alexander to get the win for a jobber match. But it's more strange but the way they keep talking about whom it was an up and coming rookie or is a star on they keep repeating on here. No, one thing David Crockett always pushed this statement on every episode for years. NWA Worldwide Wrestling, only the best. The Worldwide Wrestling episode, the way they talk about it, I thought they meant like it was a sole promotion. The way they talk about it is like the way today WWE talks about SmackDown, Raw separately. Like they're separate companies. That's the way they're talking about Worldwide Wrestling right now. And you want to make a name for yourself. You don't want to lose. You'll fall down the ladder. It was interesting how they were putting this show over, let alone this rookie star out of Europe. Alright, next is a promo by Tony Schiavone, and talking about the next shows. But here's the next shows. It's strange it's not going in the next month. It's January, but they're talking about major shows in the same month. Now, the previous episode on January 5th, they talked about a Greensboro show on January 6th. Now they're talking about another Greensboro show at the end of the same month in January 26th, 20 days later. And they also talk about a Roanoke, Virginia. Apparently these videos are based off Roanoke Television. They also had a high school show. That it's really interesting that these promotions are the same month. Major towns, Roanoke, the Scope, and Greensboro Coliseum in the same month. Another major show. Talk about it. It's just the amount. It's just that Jim Crockett Promotions was. They know they would do how many shows all week. And doubles on Saturdays and Sundays probably. It's just amazing that these promos, they were the heel promos that there was a return match actually. I believe it was in Roanoke or the Greensboro that Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Ivan Koloff, another flag match between Ivan Koloff and Don Kernodle. And Nikita Koloff's yelling. He says, "No, we beat him once," and then he comes back around the boat like, "We gotta beat him again." and Wahoo McDaniel, who is apparently the current U.S. champion, and he's gonna face World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair. I've always wanted to talk about that. It's Wahoo McDaniel's U.S. title belt, the title belt itself is very interesting. That it's silver. Yes, and it was called the NWA World Championship, the 10 pounds of gold. You look at the U.S. belt, you could barely see anything on that belt but silver color. And you probably have to look straight at it and see what. I like how they updated it going in later 85 or later. Probably it's 86 that the U.S. title belt was much more upgraded, much more fancier. But while Wahoo McDaniel and whom later on in 85 would have it, it's a silver belt, and you can't see much of it compared to the world title, which is goldish looking. But it's something that, again, you look back at these videos and these promos of the title belts and what they're talking about. And it was interesting to see that. It was really curious to see or hear that Greensboro and Roanoke and these are Virginia-based video promos, that they're having major show returns in the same month, in January. It's amazing, but it's the kind of business they did. All right, next is an interview with David Crockett talking to Don Kernodle and Ricky Steamboat. And Don Kernodle over and over thanking Ricky Steamboat for saving him in the January 6th cage match in Greensboro. He had a cage match with Ivan Koloff, and then Nikita Koloff got his way in. However, he opened the door with a key or something, and Nikita Koloff and Ivan Koloff were double teaming Don Kernodle. They show a video of that match, the ending, and Ricky Steamboat with the door of the cage was chain locked, and Ricky Steamboat taking brute strength, picking the door off its hinges on its left side, and you can see the cage door was actually hanging, and Ricky Steamboat goes to fight off Ivan, and Nikita Koloff helped Don Kernodle. They go back to talking to Ricky Steamboat in an interview spot, and this thing that I thought I've seen some of these episodes in the past. This was new. I had not seen before. That Ricky Steamboat said that he had a situation happen where he said he was doing commentary with Bob Caudle on another, I think it was maybe Mid-Atlantic or NWA Pro Wrestling, one of the other TV show spots, and Ivan Koloff was bait. He said Ivan Koloff was baiting Ricky Steamboat to come out to the match. Well, it's face off right now in the ring, and Ricky Steamboat slowly, he was in jeans and sneakers, and he took his shirt off. He approached ringside very slowly, and just as he got past the guardrails that block off the audience to the ring, comes Nikita Koloff and sickles him from behind, nails Ricky Steamboat. Now, I just noticed something, a little white heat occurs with the fans. The fans, when it comes to Jim Crockett wrestling, the Mid-Atlantic, and it's happened over the years, the fans can get so zealous that they'll help attack the heels. The white heat is, you can see right behind Nikita Koloff after he sickled Steamboat to the floor, you can see a fan with a chair. It looked like he says, "Okay, I'm gonna take care of Nikita Koloff. Who else is gonna help Ricky Steamboat?" A fan picked up a chair. Now another fan, a little few feet away over, says, like, he's pointing at the other fan, and you don't see really security here because it hasn't gotten out of control or a riot or whatnot. The other fan, a few feet over, says, like, "Put the chair down." Little white heat. That is what this company produced. I don't say company produced. I'm using the wrong words. The heat, that how realistic. And this is maybe the stars, but not even a major show. But geez, the fans are, because the Nikita Koloff, any of these heels, they can't stand the faces, the fan favorites, the good guys being attacked like that from behind, and there's nobody out to help them. Wow. When the fans get involved and they're about to attack a heel, with a chair or jump into the ring or help out whatsoever, and I've seen it many times. That is the definition of white heat. That the fans are going to get involved, chairs or whatever, they're going to get involved. And I was wondering what Ricky Steamboat was talking about. He had a situation that Ivan Koloff baited him, challenged in the ring, but it was for Nikita Koloff to clobber him from behind with a sickle. So we're gonna see what happens from here. That Ricky he now knows what Don Kernodle is dealing with a double team. Now Ricky Steamboat has been double teamed. Okay, we have a jobber match starting with Ron Bass with James J. Dillon, his manager, against Jobber, and I had to look his name up. It was Mike Davis. I know Mike Davis was a former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion. I know he had a match with Denny Brown in one of the Starcades, either 83 or 84. This match, one thing, Worldwide Wrestling is, the cool thing about it, unpredictable. You never knew what was going to happen about it, compared to even the TBS show. And during the match between Ron Bass and Mike Davis, Ricky Steamboat and Don Kernodle kept on talking about the hatred for the communist Russians, that Steamboat's pissed that Nikita Koloff and hits him from behind, and Ivan and Nikita were stomping him. Now Don Kernodle pledged to Ricky Steamboat, we're going to tag team up, and we're going to take on Ivan and Nikita Koloff anywhere in the arena in the world. Okay, and this conversation between Steamboat and Don Kernodle took place during the Ron Bass jobber match with Mike Davis. But now they continue. Now that conversation's done with, and now they go back. They continue to watch the Ron Bass match. Then all of a sudden, somebody, James A. Dillon is outside in the corner, and somebody comes from behind and takes a piece of paper and shoves it into his throat. It's Dick Slater, the unpredictable Dick Slater, and that's why I call Worldwide Wrestling was so unpredictable. You never knew what was going to happen. And this piece of paper stuck in his mouth a while, and Dick Slater then came in and started attacking Ron Bass. He ended up hooking up into a figure 4 leg lock. James J. Dillon, however, the whole time that he had this white piece of paper stuck in his mouth, that David Crockett, Tony Schiavone thinking, is that the bounty that J. Dillon put out against Dick Slater? It was a piece of paper, so they're assuming that's what the paper said. And then when J. Dillon gets in the ring to try to help Ron Bass, the piece of paper is still stuck in his mouth. They all laughing at that. Now, one thing about J.J. Dillon, like I said about Paul Jones, they are wearing these tuxedo-type outfits. J.J. Dillon is wearing, it looks like a reddish or mahogany-colored type tuxedo. Oh, man. Where TVs and movies, they come up with strange-looking tuxedos, whether what color they can turn out to be. And it's like a reddish color. It's not even, it doesn't look like a black, it's definitely not a black tuxedo, but it's a reddish. And then J.J. Dillon, he's outside trying to pull Ron Bass out, and while Dick Slater is holding Ron Bass in the figure 4 leg lock, the three original jobbers that were working against Magnum and Raging Bull and Steve Casey, who David and Tony said, Steve Casey's out here. The three other guys, they try to break up, trying to get Dick Slater off of Ron Bass. And then JJ, he starts taking his tuxedo coat off, slam it to the mat. It's the wild things that made Worldwide Wrestling so, the unpredictable things, and it's the wild things like this that made it cool. Next is a promo, an interview with Tony Schiavone, and he talks to Chief Wahoo McDaniels, and wow, that was a promo. That was one hell of an interview. My God. Wahoo McDaniel, the one thing he targeted Ric Flair. And this specific thing he brought up is that I was there for you. He said about after, how he regained the title from Harley Race. Wahoo McDaniel was there when Ric Flair broke his back in the 1975 plane crash. He visited him in the hospital, and I'm surprised he didn't use that as the statement. But they have to keep the kayfabe, heels and faces. They got to keep it kayfabe, that statement. But it's like he wanted it to rather reflect on that he was there for Flair when Flair lost the belt to Race and then regained it from Race to Starrcade. But he was reflecting that I know you you when you get that Flair, you when you became champion. Now you're gonna face guys you like, face guys you don't like, face guys you do know personally, and he said especially towards Wahoo, who is a very close friend of Flair's, and one thing Flair very much respected and idolized. If there was two people in wrestling history that Ric Flair idolized, who wanted to take after, Dusty Rhodes and Wahoo McDaniel, without a doubt. Wahoo. I'm the current U.S. champion, and I'm surprised. One thing he didn't say is he was saying it makes me the greatest wrestler in the United States. It also makes him the number one contender. Yes. Wahoo McDaniel, the way he targeted Flair, that once you won the title, Wahoo was saying I didn't exist anymore. So, and Wahoo saying I'm going to be the next world champion. It was a great promo by Wahoo McDaniel. He made it so personal, and that's what was so cool about the Carolinas, Jim Crockett, the stars of that era, that area. They made the promo so personal. We took it so seriously, but they did make the promo so real, so personal, and it was. We took it so seriously, and that's what made us remain fans, want to go to the shows, buy our tickets, become the fans, hate you, like you. It's promos like that. It was a fantastic promo for Wahoo McDaniel to challenge Ric Flair. It was awesome. Next up was David Crockett interviewing Avalanche Buzz Tyler, and he has a wrapped up package in his hands. and he's gonna say, I'm gonna open it up as appreciation. Whoever sent it to me, fan sent it to me, and he apparently he's from South Carolina. It's a Gamecock. It was from the University of South Carolina. Gamecock against the University of South Carolina. Their mascot, and he puts on the long white shirt, and he goes out dancing, and then David Crockett, you hear the music? They're playing the Kenny Loggins' major hit song Footloose, and he goes nuts. Avalanche Buzz Tyler goes nuts, dancing to the ring, and he takes on a jobber Mike Fever. Oh man! But then during the match between Buzz Tyler and Mike Fever comes a voice, and they don't put a camera on him. At first I thought it was Ron Bass. No, it's Black Bart. The way Black Bart is talking to Buzz Tyler, calling him a coward, yellow belly, blah da da da, but he's talking like a southern redneck. I'm talking pure, unadulterated. Oh my, total. Oh my God! I could not even repeat what he said. I watched recently an interview with Black Bart, and he is pure Southern redneck. Good Lord, this is the way he was talking. He was repeating the same thing. Nobody could repeat what Black Bart was saying. My God, you couldn't script that. You couldn't write that. I couldn't write that. Trying to remember everything these guys are saying. Holy cow! That would be a hell of a match. It's going to happen in a major arena. Buzz Tyler against Black Bart, and man, the way they're talking to each other, holy cow! Oh my God, that just the way they're talking. You'd have to listen to Black Bart. Oh my God, but you have to listen to Black Bart. It's Southern redneck language against Buzz Tyler. I don't think Buzz Tyler he didn't even realize that Black Bart was talking and promoting against him on the mic. Oh my God! It let alone say funny. It's there's where it gets so personal, and that's what you loved about Worldwide Wrestling. You loved about Crockett Promotions. These guys do it and perform it so personally. All right, another fantastic promo occurs with Wahoo McDaniel returning to an interview. Oh my God! Now he's challenging Ric Flair for a world title match, and you get a good up close look at the U.S. title. I had said before earlier in this episode that you couldn't get it's a silver the U.S. title belt's silver, but you really couldn't get a close look at it. But yeah, with the second interview by Wahoo McDaniel, yeah, you do get a better look at it. Wahoo McDaniel is saying that he has not been able to get a shot at Ric Flair. He goes to NWA President Bob Geigel. He goes to Jim Crockett Jr. and they're telling him no. Well, you're going to be number one contender to the U.S. title. Yes, you do are guaranteed. You are, I know, the contender for the championship. Well, Wahoo said, I said to Flair, I know you better than any man. True. And you always looked up, and said you always looked up to me, whether it's any pro sports. And then they show a tape where I looked into the records, history records about where this match took place, but apparently Ric Flair had a match, and it looked like J.J. Dillon was the manager. You could see him in the distance walking off with somebody, and I'm not sure who that was. You can only see his red tuxedo. But Wahoo McDaniel came from behind, started smacking Flair around. He ran his head into the ring post. Then he laid out Flair out in the middle of the ring. He says, I can't, if you're not going to answer me, Rick, in a title match, I'll lay you out. I'll take you out anytime I can. Then an interview with Ric Flair, and he's got the title belt around his waist. And he looked up to Wahoo McDaniel, being a pro athlete, pro football star. And Ric Flair goes nuts about how saying Wahoo is second best because he's United States champion. It's the number one contender, making him the second best. And apparently Wahoo's pissed. He'd say Wahoo's pissed about that, and Flair goes nuts as he usually does, even because he named it on the top. Him and Dusty Rhodes, so he said Wahoo McDaniel, but he said him and Dusty were the top. The best there is. Yes, Dusty and Flair were the best talkers in the business, bar none. And how much he looked up to Wahoo McDaniel all his life. But Flair goes nuts as he usually does, the greatest promo champion in history. and he gets so upset. He almost to a point of crying because he's like Wahoo attacked him, and Wahoo it was a one person that he idolized becoming a wrestler, where originally it was Dusty that he wanted to be a sidekick to Dusty Rhodes, but Dusty said you gotta be your own man. But as a wrestler, he idolized Wahoo McDaniel, and he's so upset that Wahoo would attack him from behind. So. No Flair. No, one of these. It's eventually Flair and Wahoo will get in the ring, and they're gonna know U.S. title against world title. No, they're gonna settle it. This is what was so cool and awesome with Wahoo McDaniel's second interview and Flair. Need I say more about these guys? The next match is a jobber match involving Nikita Koloff against jobber Tommy Lane, and Ivan Koloff was with him. Man, Nikita Koloff goes kind of wild and nuts on Tommy Lane. He hits him with a bunch of clotheslines, almost very similar to his Russian sickle. But then it ends very quickly and very strangely. Nikita puts Tommy Lane in a sleeper hold, and they actually say it's a Cobra. It's a very the similarity of what Sergeant Slaughter's Cobra Clutch sleeper hold. It's the same sleeper hold Ted DiBiase would use when he was Million Dollar Man, the Million Dollar Sleeper. It's the Cobra Clutch that Sergeant Slaughter started back in 82, 83, back very early 80s in Mid-Atlantic. That was very strange to see Nikita Koloff win any match with a sleeper. He usually hits clobbers. A full force Russian sickle, like an 18-wheeler coming at you, 18-wheeler big rig truck coming at you. How Nikita Koloff was such a big, strong man, but he would use a sleeper versus his Russian sickle. He kept hitting Tommy Lane with a bunch of clotheslines, and he puts his sleeper, his Cobra Clutch. Strange match, strange ending there. Next is a promo for the next talent show, which was the Roanoke Scope Civic Center or Scope the Arena the later January, where Tony Schiavone says the Roanoke show is going to have the match between U.S. champion Wahoo McDaniel against Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship, and they have Ric Flair promoing this. You want me, you got me. That was pretty much the promo. And Ric Flair can go on. He can go on for minutes and hours about selling himself, selling the match. But that the previous incident, the attack by Wahoo on Flair, that the NWA, for some reason, were turning Wahoo away, being number one contender with the U.S. title. Ric Flair says, "You want me, you got me," and apparently it's going to happen. They're promoting this Roanoke, Virginia, into the Scope show between the two. All right, to end the episode for January 12th, again, Worldwide Wrestling is unpredictably wild. Match ends with Paul Jones's man Barbarian and Superstar Billy Graham working with against jobbers Mark Fleming and Sam Houston. Now Barbarian and Superstar Billy Graham, wow. First they came out, there was interesting music they came out to. Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas. Now I haven't heard that song since the 70s. That's the one awesome thing about professional wrestling. Worldwide Wrestling or any other company, they used music for the entrances, and it really resells the music that people have forgotten about. And they just pick great music for these guys. It just you remember and what you saw, how these songs match these guys, their personality, their entrance. And the wild thing that happens, it was more funny than interesting or awesome. Billy Graham, as soon as he hits in the ring, he starts wailing his arms, doing that Karate Man gimmick. And he's really throwing his arms around. Like he's not even threatening against the jobbers, the opponents. He's just throwing his arms around, like the gimmicks. I said, Graham did not like doing that gimmick. Much later on, he admits he didn't like that gimmick. But it was crazy. It really was. The way he's throwing his arms around was honestly ridiculous. But Billy Graham and Barbarian was dominating Mark Fleming, the other jobber, and more so that Barbarian, he eventually, unlike the previous episode on January 5th, Barbarian came off the top rope with the flying headbutt and pins Mark Fleming very quickly. Then Graham and Barbarian start stomping on Fleming. Then Sam Houston, and he's another a rookie protege of Dusty Rhodes out of Texas, and he goes to help Mark Fleming, but Graham and Barbarian get rid of him. Then they go to an interview segment with David Crockett talking to Paul Jones, and they talked to Paul Jones that he had $1,000 that he's offering anybody who can break Superstar Billy Graham's Full Nelson. It's a challenge. And then at the studio background, up comes a guy named Starship Eagle, who was, I guess, Jim Crockett's version of Barry Windham. He very much looks like him, and he says, "I'm out here. I'm going to challenge for that $1,000. I'll take on Billy Graham with his Full Nelson challenge." Paul Jones retaliates. So you don't even know what a Full Nelson is. Starship Eagle, he grabs Jones really quickly into the Full Nelson and throws him to the ground. And David Crockett, "Are you all right?" He's like almost laughing at Paul Jones. And then Graham and Barbarian come out. You can hear Jones, "Oh, my neck, it hurts." And Graham, replies back at Starship, "Come out here, I'll take you on." And then nobody puts his hand on our manager. And the show ends. That is how wild and unpredictable Worldwide Wrestling is. That's how I love it.
If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.